everyone, and welcome to our Vistatec Life Sciences in Focus podcast, fascinating conversations with global life sciences experts. This is a space where we interview life sciences experts once a month, and I'm your host, María Mateos. I'm very excited to talk with today's guest, Angelina Lisandrelli, who is an extraordinary mentor and currently Director of Regulatory and Quality at RespirTech, a Philips company. Angelina gives back as part of her career in regulatory, and she will tell us a bit more about that here very shortly. Angelina, I'm so grateful to have you here today. Could you please tell our listeners a little bit about your origin story and maybe where you are now?
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Maria, for Vistatec, for listening to my story. I was born in Virginia to two immigrant parents. Both of my parents are from Sicily. So, they came over here in the late 70s, early 80s. And after that, we moved to California, where I spent most of my life there. I graduated from Sonoma State University with a BS in chemistry. And soon after that, I moved into industry, more on the pharma side. So developing products, R&D. I worked on products like now called Aquaphor, CeraVe. So it was amazing to Neutrogena. Yes, they're all over the world. You never knew what it was because there was no label on the outside. But I every time I see those jars, I'm instantly brought back to the lab where people, we worked with the team on developing that. Soon after, I moved into another chemistry role at Medtronic, and that was really my first time getting exposure to medical devices, especially class 3 devices. So from a drug combination product, stents, drug-coated balloons, developing assays, routine GMP testing. And I really started to love that field and being really turned on about what are medical devices and how do they work. As I progressed in that role, I got more of a quality oversight. And so that allowed me to have interfacing with different cross-functional teams from R&D and regulatory. And people would approach me with either deficiency questions they got on their submissions or questions about the validations. And that really sparked another kind of aspect in my mind. I'm like, what is regulatory? What is quality? And from then on, I moved into a regulatory role because it was really transferring over and it was magnetizing me to that path. From then on, I helped with EUMDR, and that was another challenge in itself because everybody was learning in the early days of EUMDR. So I was helping lead teams, helping RESs who had never done submissions before. And so that was another bug that started to grow inside of me from liking to work with people and seeing them grow and seeing them getting challenged. That's really where I started to transition into another part of Medtronic as a manager. So I was leading a team of regulatory affairs specialists in different devices. So they had a pill called PillCam, and it was with software, AI. So it was really interesting to go from a drug-coated balloon stents all the way to something software. It expanded my role, my perspective about regulatory. And then last, I moved over to Philips. And at Philips, I started as the head of regulatory file reviews, where I would go into businesses and help them identify problems, strategy, give them solutions, help mentor people who had never done 510Ks. Again, it was just all of this was coming together, and it was like feeding my soul. And then lastly, I got pulled into as the director of regulatory and quality at RespirTech, and that's a Philips company. So it was just a very smooth, I don't want to say smooth, but natural progression of my career.
Wow, you've done a lot. You've done a lot. You keep doing a lot. And from what I hear, and correct me if I'm wrong, but all across all your roles, what I can see is you very much enjoy working with people and mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
That's extraordinary. That's amazing. And I know we met through our connections at RAPS, the Regulatory Affairs Professional Society, and friends in common, we can say. And of course, we know you're passionate about mentoring. Could you tell us a bit more on how you got into it? You told me a bit where it kind of sparkled, but what does this look like? And maybe the why you have built into such a strong feature of your work and life.
To tell you, I have to go back to very early in when I was 12 years old, 13 years old. I had a teacher named Mary Blakesley, and she was my first science teacher. And I will say that my family, no one's graduated from college. My mother went to the 3rd grade in Italy, or Sicily, I shall say. And for me, this woman sparked the learning bug into me. She really was a beacon of light. And to be frank, coming from immigrant parents, when I was in the 9th grade, Miss Blakesley moved over to the high school. My parents were pulling me out of school a lot to help with the restaurant. It is very common, to say that the stereotype is I'm a firstborn daughter. The daughter serves the family. And, granted, this was 1993. My parents were pulling me out of school to help with the business. And that was something, I'm there for my family, but Miss Blakesley actually put her job on the line and intervened because she saw something in me that was a spark. And she helped grow that. And in fact, she told my parents I needed to be at school. And she took me under her wing as a science teacher. And that was really, I didn't know what the word mentor was. She was my first mentor. And I owe my life to her, to be honest. Coming after that, I had multiple mentors throughout my career, all of them women. So in high school, I had Miss Forsick. She was a chemistry teacher. She sparked my love for chemistry. And then after that, I went to Sonoma State. Dr. Lillig continued that spark for chemistry and pushed me in ways that, again, developing. And the reason why I say this is you have to understand how these little moments in life that you have with people are key, and you can change the trajectory of someone's life that you can never imagine. So when I think about mentorship, I think about all these people in my life to this day that I honestly owe a piece of my success and my life to them, because some of them saved it. That's what mentorship is to me. And that is why it's so important as kind of a foundation that I continue that legacy and help promote. And that's honestly a small nutshell. I love inspiring people. I love people seeing the potential that they have. And mentorship is the key where I can serve that aspect for them. It is very rewarding. And again, I learned too as a mentor. So from when I was really looking at this, there's something that happened that was a lesson for me in life. And I was really down. And I was like, how can I give back? How can I change my trajectory, taking a negative situation and a positive? None of with those mentors, I mean, but it was a lesson in life for me. And I sat there and I was like, I really like helping people. I really want to do something. I really love regulatory. I really want people to see the potential. And serendipitously, being part of RAPS, they were developing this mentoring program. I saw the mentoring program and I reached out to them and I said, hey, this is something foundational. Let's partner up and see what we can do. And I helped develop some tools for that program. And honestly, that's where I'm advocating for RAPS. They have really a great infrastructure. Anybody can sign up online. You can create a relationship and link not only with people like myself, but across all industry. There are plenty of mentors out there. There's plenty of mentees, and you can be both at the same time. So for me, it's like almost a full circle moment that great. Why don't we partner up and why don't we use this to our benefit? And so many people in industry are looking for those beacons, like those catalysts that I had my early life. Why not?
Yeah, it's amazing, and I can totally relate to your story about having an amazing teacher or more than one that shape your career without even realizing they are being a mentor to you. and how you come to like a specific subject, maybe not because of the subject itself, but because of the person who is teaching that to you, and how they did it, and how they empowered you, right? That's amazing. Thank you very much for sharing that. And from what you have said, I can tell that you could you would recommend raps. Sorry, I'll go again. So from what you have just said, I can tell that you would recommend RAPS mentoring programs specifically for RAPS members and students. I'm wondering, do you like informal mentoring programs or more structured type of programs?
I prefer both, actually. I know that's like the very regulatory comment that it's like, it depends. There are some people that are just looking for a quick, let me get a perspective. So especially in the light of what has happened at the FDA, many people are impacted by that situation. They just want to have somebody to go off as a sounding board, or, that's an opportunity for mentorship. I do think, though, the structured environment is key for someone to have a longer mentorship. So for me, I have 23 mentees. All of those folks are under my mentorship for 1 year. I will give you my undivided attention for 1 year. We will meet once a month for half an hour, and we'll have a structured environment. Why do I say that is key? For you to develop, it takes a little bit of a ramp up. So not only are you trying to find your way, but like, where do you want to go from your goals? And how do you want to get there? Everybody's goal is different. With a structured mentorship program like RAPS, or, there's other wonderful programs like MedTech Color or MedTech Women, not just RAPS, but there's different avenues depending on what you feel fits for you. The structured mentorship is really key because it keeps you on track. So the way I structure my mentorship with people is like, well, let's have a kickoff meeting. It is a casual conversation. I want to understand what makes you. There are people that come to me very prepared. They're like, I want to be a principal regulatory affairs specialist in 1 year. That's great. I want to do things too, but you're not just that. And one of the key parts of mentorship is, for me, at least with my mentees, is your job is not your identity. That's first and foremost.
I couldn't agree more.
Right? Your passion is your identity. Your passion can be regulatory, but your passion can also be helping people. Your passion can be knowledge sharing. Your passion can be networking. For me, it's key to understand, how do you work? How do your gears fashion? And what does your universe look like? After that, I actually give all my mentees their 2025 kind of bucket list. And it's a square that they have to talk about something, from achievements they want to make from a career, from a professional, from a personal, that's not work related, and then from a fun perspective. Why I say this, you have to have balance. If you're constantly like just driven, I'm a very driven person. If you do not have the proper balance, you will lose motivation. And so it's key for people to understand early in their career to have this balance aspect, because you will experience at some moment in your career the potential of burnout. And burnout derails you, and you can lose opportunities for your career because you're in a state of burnout. I have burned out, so I speak from experience itself. And two, there's proven fact that once you write your goals on paper, you are likely to achieve them. So out of the 23 mentees I have, I keep track of all their goals, and silently I'm keeping track of where they're achieving it. They don't even know that we're keeping on track of it from a certain perspective, because I want them to look at themselves. And we do this with most of my mentees. It's like, you're 12 months from where you start. How do you feel? How do you look at yourself? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel hope? And do you, not me, do you see the potential in you? Because I could see as much potential as possible. But if you do not feel that potential, you will be stuck.
Totally, totally. And it's a wonderful job, the one you do at empowering them, at giving them all the tools to go and be a better version of themselves, and not just professionally. It's like a holistic approach, the one you do. I love it. And I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit more about your experience in mentoring and empowering women specifically. I can tell you have a passion about that too, from what you have said. And you seem to be a person that empower people just by talking to them. I feel a bit more empowered at this moment than I was 15 minutes ago.
Yes, absolutely. I am very much, I believe that we should be empowering women. I have a very strong magnet to also empowering minorities, women of color. It is paramount, especially in this day of age, to keep them at the forefront. To me, there have been abilities to show women, and what you can see is that women have a resilience that has been generationally brought on to us. And so it's very important to not only, I do this also for anybody in my mentorship, but I really want women to see that they can advocate for themselves. A lot of women that come to me say, you know, I really am afraid to apply for this job. I said, I will tell you the statistics. Mostly women don't apply for jobs until they're overqualified for that job. And it's proven fact that it's, you know, males will apply if they feel like they can meet 80% or 60% of the requirements. The same needs to be applied, but how does that change, right? It's through seeing representatives that have done that, either through mentorship or through beacons of leadership, that you can see that, yes, I can achieve this, but it's almost to help quell that little voice in their heads of, I can't go anywhere. I don't think, no, yes, you can. And in fact, when you talk to people and go, well, you've done this and you've done that, why do you think that that's not a transferable skill? And that's a key point of my mentorship is you listen to them and you want to help them see, again, that potential in them. So especially with women, we kind of downplay ourselves in ways that society has put onto us. You can't be direct. If you're too direct, you're too assertive. But then, you know, the other perspective is if you're a man that does that, you're confident. I think Taylor Swift had a whole interview about this, and not to quote Taylor Swift, but it's like in the music industry, there was
Yes.
you know, if you're giving options, you're uncertain, but if you're a male, you're strategic. I want to break that mold into a million pieces till it's sand. That is not true. And if I can empower people to do that, all the better.
Yeah, and while you were talking, you were specifically describing, without mentioning, imposter syndrome, mainly in women. Would you say that you see it most in women than in men when you
I see
mentor
that.
people?
I think most mentees early in the career have feeling with that. I will not say that I don't ever feel imposter syndrome. I feel it
I
all the
guess we all have, don't we?
Yeah, but I think the perspective that you have to take, especially if you're developing and growing, if you feel imposter syndrome, you need to lean into that. You are actually growing in that moment because that's an area that you're being magnetized to follow. I take it as, okay, when I feel that, I know that I'm changing something in my perception. I'm aware of that I'm learning in this area, but let's change it from imposter to growth. This is an area of growth. And so then you take the stigma from it. So as it's called imposter syndrome, a lot of people in leadership still feel this. And granted, some people won't admit it straight out, but everyone has this feeling of, do I feel insecure in this role? Am I able to do this? If you can have either yourself see this, that you can find opportunity, information, or have a mentor to be able to quell that thought and say, no, this is where you're growing. You really aren't an imposter, right?
No, you're just a little bit uncomfortable, and that's perfectly fine. You
Yes,
should be. It's a challenge you're
fear is
facing.
good. Fear is a good thing. I honestly think fear should be used as opportunity.
Totally, totally. I could speak with you about this for hours, but I'd love to ask you one last question. Um, and it has to do with, again, empowering women. Do you believe that their mother tongue, whatever that may be, plays an important role in mainly women's careers? I know my first language is not English, and I believe yours is not either.
No, it is not. My first language is actually an Italian dialect, Sicilian, and I went to school not under, it took me a very long time to understand English. I took ESL, but my love for language, and I agree with you that language is a bit of the piece of who you are. So you bring culture, you bring history with language. The Sicilian dialect is almost a dying language at times. I still speak it, so I don't want that language to die. But for me, it brings who you are. So like, I love language so much that after, English is my second language, Spanish is my third language, and then I learned Japanese. My goal is to have 7 languages under my belt. We'll see if we can do that, but that is my lifelong goal. But I believe, yes, yeah, language brings perspective. So for example, when you're working on maybe an IFU, okay, and a lot of IFUs are translated across the world.
Yes, we do that
Right? So there's
on a daily basis.
but there's a cultural difference on the communication of the information. And that has to be cognizant while you're doing this sort of work. Not just for that, but certain regulatory documents, other customer facing documents. You need to take that perspective. And so having teams of people from different backgrounds, different languages is absolutely paramount for a business to take into account. And, the offer that you guys do at Vistatec is so key because you guys have an infrastructure already built to help provide that solution. So, language is so pivotal. It's a form of communication. It's a form of identity. And you want people to feel recognized. So when your documentation is interpreted and translated in a manner that you can understand and read it, that is a way of saying we acknowledge you, we respect you, and here you go.
Yeah, and we take care of you, and we make sure it's not just the language, but as you said, it's a way of thinking. You might realize that we tend to think differently in different languages. It's not that it's a different idea, but maybe a different way of tackling that idea in different, well, we basically use different sides of the brain.
Absolutely. Yes, it fires off. And just a little tidbit, I took human anatomy early on because I wanted to be a doctor at some point, and then I decided not to, but I took human anatomy, and at that point, you're dissecting things and looking at prosections, and the mind is amazing. The mind is absolutely amazing. It's definitely, I agree with that statement there. Language is important.
It is. It totally is. And Angelina, I could spend all day talking to you about this or really anything. I'm afraid we need to come to an end here. But before we go, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience? Maybe a book, a movie, a training course, anything you'd like to share, recommendations?
Yeah, I have multiple books. All of my mentees know that at a certain point, I'm looking at my bookshelf right now. I grab a book and go from there. But I really, out of all of the things that I would encourage people is to go to the RAPS mentorship program. You need to have a membership to do this, but it is so valuable because you will get into a database of regulatory professionals across the globe. Not partaking that is, you're missing out. The last thing I want to say is to everyone out there that wants to be a mentee. There are so many people that reach out to me. I applaud them because they are stepping out of their zone to look for their beacon. But the other point that I want to make here is mentors are needed as much as possible. I think a lot of people reach out to me on LinkedIn and they go, I can't believe you answered. That's a little bit heartbreaking to me. I want people that they should have, and especially at my level, or even, you know, people at other, you could have people at the same level of you. It is a community and sharing information is wealth. But for someone to reach across and break who they are and trying to look for guidance, I think there's a little bit of societal aspect there that we should give in and lean into that. And being a mentor is absolutely rewarding. I'm not saying you have to go crazy at 23, but maybe one. And imagine, especially in the regulatory field, how many leaders can just take one outside of their role, or how many people at a principal level can just take one. So mentorship is about giving hope. Mentorship is about giving people the potential to see what they have inside.
Thank you. That was an amazing wrap up for today's podcast, Angelina. Thank you so much for your insights and for sharing knowledge. This is one of the main purposes we do our podcast. So thank you. And thank you to our audience too. This Life Sciences in Focus podcast is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other leading platforms, as well as on YouTube, if you prefer to watch us instead of just listening. Please make sure to tune in again for next month's Vistatec Life Sciences in Focus, fascinating conversations with global life sciences experts.